What if RUNERIGUS and Coppergrigus were in Gen 1 OU? Now, if you see the title, you might have seen Coppergrigus, but saw he wasn't really mentioned in the actual title. And that is because one of these is significantly better than the other. However, I felt like one of these is so terrible and the other one is pretty good. Might as well cover them in the same video, because the one that is terrible, yeah, I just don't think I can make a video on just Coppergrigus. So let's go over that first, shall we? I guess I'll go over both of their stats at the same time, since for the most part it's basically identical, except one uses special attack and one is a physical attacker. And for Coppergrigus here, outside of its attack, which just sucks, its special attack is decent, and its defense and special defense are just good for the time. You speed time without the slowest things in the tier, and your HP stats is kinda bad. And that's about it. Coppergrigus is not really doing anything in Gen 1 OU. I would say he's not doing much in underuse either. He can do a quarter damage with Nightshade. He might lower his special with Psychic, but his move pool is so bad you need to put Haze on here. And that alone should already show just how much of a nothing Pokemon Coppergrigus is, that it needs to run Haze. But Haze just in of itself goes against using Psychic. So even with this thing, your 95 special attack, for the most part, is useless. So yeah, that's pretty much all you can really say of a Coppergrigus. It has a good typing, but it's just not doing anything with it. It might not be weak to Psychic or Ground, but it's losing to both Psychics and Rhydon anyways. And even the normal types. Blizzard and Earthquake from Tauros, those already do pretty good damage. And Snorlax can hit pretty hard as well. So just nothing. So that's why the majority of this video will be with RUNERIGUS instead. The Galarian, it's not a regional variant, it's its own thing technically. But it might as well be a regional variant. And what do we have here that's different? Well, the most obvious one is the fact that it has a new typing. It's not just a ghost type, it is a ground ghost type. Which, as you can imagine, it's a very big deal. Along with that, it has 95 attack instead of special attack. And having physical moves, especially in Gen 1, I just say is just more useful. There's just more generic, good physical moves. Outside of Bolt Beam coverage, but this definitely wasn't a Pokemon that would be given Bolt Beam coverage anyways. And since this is a Gen 8 Pokemon, in general, Pokemon just have way more moves. And I'm not just talking about moves that are obviously new, or moves from Gens 2 through whatever gen it is. Newer Pokemon, just in general, have a lot of the classic Gen 1 moves. Pokemon just have bigger and better move pools. That's how it's been ever since, I want to say Gen 4, but that could have started in Gen 3, but I'm pretty sure it was Gen 4. So, there's other moves here that you don't see, for example, there's Rock Slide, and there's Substitute, Hyper Beam, Body Slam, but for the most part, none of these are really as good. And that's because RUNERIGUS here, it has a pretty good thing going on. It has immunity to normal, and electric, and thunder wave. Those are just very, very valuable immunities to have. But along with that, I would say that even though 58 special, or not special, HP, not good at all. But luckily, both of your defenses are so good, you can make that work. So RUNERIGUS here is the only Pokemon that I know of that would use Gen 1 Amnesia just defensively. Friendly reminder that for Gen 1 custom games, if it's a new Pokemon, even though it won't show it on screen, the special split is a thing. So RUNERIGUS here, when you have max special, it will show that 50 special, and it'll say 700 or something. But for damage calculations, it is using its 105 special defense. So if you're using that, this thing becomes very, very tanky. And luckily, assuming it's not stab, It can survive at least one ice move from Tauros or Starmie or Chansey. And with one Amnesia, that already turns into a 3-hit KO. So that, with rest, means that RUNERIGUS here can actually become tanky enough to deal with the ice moves. Now, for Tauros and Starmie, or especially in Starmie's case, it's just not going well for you. And even with Tauros, it's a big could go either way. But you are able to manage your one main weakness. Outside have grass moves, but like, you know, Victory Bell's beating you. In crits, even from something like an Executor or Chansey are beating you no matter what. So that really sucks, but at least you have a way to deal with it. A lot of other ground types I've talked about just don't. They don't have a way to deal with ice moves. So, with Earthquake, which obviously you get, its stab, and 9-5 attack is good for the time. So, Earthquake's hitting pretty hard, but I would say your main attacking move is probably Nightshade. Nightshade hits everything consistently, and for a tank like this, it's exactly what you want. And you're using Rest, obviously, because you're also using Amnesia. Now, is there any reason to use Rock Slide or Hyper Beam? I'm gonna say no. The only things you're not wanting to hit with Earthquake would be Executor. But Executor you could just deal with Nightshade, and Hyper Beam is ineffective. Rock Slide is super effective against Zapdos, but with your 145 attack, or not attack, defense, Zapdos is not hurting you whatsoever. So just being able to boost your special, so that ice moves aren't as big an issue, and then resting off, yeah, that's pretty much all you need. RUNERIGUS here, unlike Coppergigas, would actually be pretty good in Gen 1. Now, when I was making the replays, it's kind of interesting. Because it's either doing very well, or it's going against a Ice type, or an Amnesia user, and it's just getting destroyed. So at first I was thinking that he would be one of the best Pokemon in OU. He definitely would be up there. But I honestly feel like the Ice types, or just the crit rates, are enough to keep this guy in check. I think in Gen 2, he would be a huge threat. I don't know how good he'd be exactly in Gen 2, but I think he'd be amazing. But for Gen 1, he'd be one of the better Pokemon, but I don't think he would make any huge problems or create any like very different playstyles. He would be competing with both Gengar and Rhydon, but luckily both have legitimate reasons to use them. Rhydon just hits very hard and it's a great win con. Gengar is Gengar, and obviously you want to do Gengar things. To be honest, using Gengar and RUNERIGUS on the same team isn't even that bad. I wouldn't really recommend that for RUNERIGUS and Rhydon, but overall, just nice. But how well does it do against the rest of the meta? Only one way to find out. I feel like it's been a while since I've really said that. But here's Tauros, there's a Blizzard, and it's only a 3-hit KO. So you're just seeing firsthand how Amnesia is just pretty good here, even if it's just defensively. You're not really hurting RUNERIGUS that much. You can rest off the damage, so the only thing that really screws you over is, well, a crit. And a crit, yeah, it's definitely over once you do get hit with a crit. But still, especially for Tauros' case, and for a lesser extent Starmie, there's only so many Blizzards that they have. So it's very, very scary and very risky, and it'll probably go wrong. But still, you have a chance of stalling out the Blizzard PP. So Tauros, does Tauros really bother fighting RUNERIGUS? I couldn't tell you. I didn't bother making a replay with Physical X, nor did I bother making a replay with Jolteon. You should already know by now that just Starrox with only Earthquake as a physical option is just not beating RUNERIGUS, which means you have Amnesia Lax. And Amnesia Lax, the most common move is almost always Blizzard, so there's, yeah, not much really going on here. I was surprised with how hard Ice Beam hit, because I felt like with 105 special defense and 65 special, I felt like RUNERIGUS should have tanked it a lot better. But I guess I was wrong. Alright, now get him for a long one. RUNERIGUS versus Chansey. Now, with Amnesia, you no longer have to worry about 3-hit KOs. So the only thing you really need to worry about is either a crit or a freezing. And for these replays, that doesn't even matter, because I give these guys magma armor so they don't get frozen. So with rest, you can stall out. You can definitely stall out at least Seismic Toss. And with your attack, RUNERIGUS won't get many opportunities in this replay, but you absolutely can use Earthquake to do a 3-hit KO, which hits pretty hard. Unfortunately, you can't paralyze Chansey, nor can you really hope for a crit, but still, you're stalling out Chansey once they get lucky with a crit, and they only have 50 base speed, so I'm pretty sure it's about as common as a regular crit, which means you will definitely have plenty of games where it's just not happening. Now, while this is going on, I'd like to remind you guys that RUNERIGUS, along with Corviknight, Skeledirge, Mimikyu, and Grimmsnarl, along with some other Pokemon, are all able to be played right now in my Discord server, because I host tournaments based off the what-if scenarios that I do. And for the Halloween Generation Jumble, RUNERIGUS is here, and I'll be honest, I don't really remember how he's doing. I have yet to play a game myself, but the rest of the server has. He's not, like, taking over everything like Corviknight is. Corviknight definitely seems like the best defensive Pokemon in Gen 1 OU, but from what I've seen from the tier list, RUNERIGUS doesn't have it that bad. No one's really using him right now, but it's also the beginning of the format, you know? I'm very confident that once everyone figures out what the best teams are, you'll definitely see RUNERIGUS on more defensive sets. I already have a few ideas in mind about what I want to do. Join the server. Also, the tournament is starting on October 1st, and if you look in the description of this video, you'll see information for Generation Jumble, but you'll also see the link that has you sign up. But make sure you're actually in the server before you try signing up. By the way, I'm also going to say this now. This video is actually my first ever Patreon video, since this was specifically requested by Zach and Theus. So, thank you, Zach and Theus, for the support. I really appreciate it. But back on to RUNERIGUS trying to stall out Chansey. And to be fair, it's not doing a bad job. It only has one Seismic Toss left, so Chansey's already doing pretty bad. You already have 5 rest, so you're not stalling out Ice Beam, but I don't think that matters. You're already doing a pretty good job just messing with the Chansey here. Not to mention, you're already at a point where you could start going on the offensive. And Earthquake, like I said, it's just about a third. But if it gets a crit, oh my gosh, yeah, you better believe it's gonna do a crazy amount of damage. Now, I'm pretty sure 4 Amnesias is the correct thing to do, but I would appreciate someone, well, not 4, technically 3, but you get the idea. I'm pretty sure Max Amnesia is worth it, but you guys gotta let me know in the comments. Maybe it would have been better just to go for an attack. So the only thing here that really screws over RUNERIGUS is a crit, and this is actually the second replay that I did, because the first one did have RUNERIGUS get crit very early on, and I felt like that just wasn't a good way to really represent this. So here we are. Now, Nightshade isn't doing that much, but I do think it can help put Chansey in a damage range. But for the most part, I feel like it's just a, I think, good matchup. Compared to some of the other ones we have, like Jolteon and Zapdos, I definitely can't put Chansey in that same category. But still, you're stalling out Chansey, with Chansey having high special and a nice move. Unless that happens. Yeah, those crits will get ya. But assuming that doesn't happen, which is a realistic possibility, you're going to do pretty good. Now, the same can't be said for Alakazam. Alakazam is statistically way more likely to get that crit, but the trade-off is that you're not actually weak to Ice Beam, or not Ice Beam, Psychic. But still, do you feel comfortable with this? I probably wouldn't, and I'm pretty sure Zam doesn't even bother with Seismic Toss, because obviously, as you saw with Chansey, it could just be completely stalled out if RUNERIGUS really wanted to. However, I feel like if you're the Zam player, you're better off just going for Psychics. Just trying to go get that crit or a special drop. Both can also help. So I think it just depends. I don't know if each one of them has a better advantage over the other. I just don't feel comfortable either way. And once that happens, like if RUNERIGUS gets that critical earthquake, you're golden. But that's probably not happening. Speaking of not happening, you're not beating Cloyster. Even if you have max special already, at that point Cloyster just clamp blocks you to death. And even with max special, Clamp I'm pretty sure isn't going to be doing that bad of chip damage. And then Blizzard obviously does great damage. So you're just not winning that. You're not winning against any stab, like ice moves. Now Executor here. I'm sure you guys were curious to see how much Mega Drain did. There you go. The rest of this is pretty straightforward. You can just keep getting tankier, and Eggy can just not do much against you. But oh my gosh, I was venting about this in my Discord server. I had to do 5 replays before I made this one here. Because in 5 different replays, Executor kept on critting. It was so annoying. And normally that wouldn't be a problem. But with 55 base speed, I feel like I just couldn't make it the main replay because that's not a super accurate way to portray this matchup. I feel like most of the time they could call this a good matchup. So I'm not sure why Executor was getting so lucky. But it was so annoying. You have no idea. Honestly, that's like the one thing I don't like while making these replays. You have like, when it comes to crits, special drops, freezing status, all of it, sometimes the RNG is very annoying when it's just one person and replaying himself over and over again. But luckily I didn't have to worry about that with Gengar here. I don't think I really would show anything if I was showing you try to go for Hypnosis. Because either Gengar hits it, and then RUNERIGUS is put to sleep, or doesn't and gets murdered. It doesn't even change the viability, because Sleep Clause is a thing. So obviously, if there's no Sleep Clause, RUNERIGUS just does a great matchup here, and that's how I'd prefer to rank it. But RUNERIGUS does great, because Gengar can't hurt it. But you could absolutely hurt Gengar. And speaking of hurting, yeah, you're not doing anything here. I don't think Rock Slide would really help you that much either. Jinx just annihilates you. And I'll mention this here. This is kind of weird for the first Patreon video, but normally when I'm making these, I do intend on also including the borderline Pokemon. I didn't bother here because I felt like Cloyster and Jinx already got the point across. But for Articuno and Lapras, you're going to see them in the tier list at the end of the video. But those guys, it's just the same thing here, but even worse because they hit even harder. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Articuno can OHKO RUNERIGUS. Who knows? But let's get on, alright? Or keep moving, you know what I'm trying to say. Now this one surprised me. Rhydon hit RUNERIGUS way harder than I would have expected. But like I said, RUNERIGUS doesn't even have base 60 HP. So even though you have an insane 145 defense, Rhydon here can actually take advantage of it. This is part of the reason why I feel like RUNERIGUS isn't outclassing Rhydon. Not in the slightest. Rhydon absolutely can be a better ass on some teams, for what you saw there. And then Slowbro. I almost didn't bother making a replay of this. But then I figured, I guess we should see how it does when both have special. And with max special, yeah, of course Slowbro is going to dominate. RUNERIGUS can go for Nightshade, but Slowbro can rest at any time. So RUNERIGUS is just getting absolutely destroyed. There's not much you can really do here. If you're surprised by that, I don't know what to tell you. Only a few left, and then that's it. We have Starmie, and while Starmie, technically it should be like Chansey and Tauros, but I feel like it's just not the case. But I don't think it's because of the high crit rate. The high crit rate is definitely a big reason as to why I feel this is unwinnable. But even though you're not going to see it in this replay, the main reason is because of Recover. Nightshade and Earthquake both are pretty ineffective at trying to deal with Starmie. Even when you have max special, Starmie can just keep fishing for those crits, and with Recover, it can keep staying there, even if it loses all of its Blizzard power points. But I do gotta say, for the Corviknight video, I went over how I felt like Bulk Beam Starmie would become the new norm, if it isn't already. But now with RUNERIGUS in the format, now that's kind of it's kind of making things complicated. Because if you have Thunderbolts, then RUNERIGUS, it need to get really lucky. But it actually might be able to stall out Starmie with Blizzard. So for Halloween Jumble, what's actually the best set for Starmie? It's hard to tell, which I think that's pretty cool. And if you think you know what the optimal set is, join my Discord server. Please, I'd love to have you. And also subscribe. You get to see cool replays like RUNERIGUS being destroyed by Victory Bell. And to no one's surprise, yeah, Victory Bell does a great job here. It is not suffering whatsoever. This is not a Victory Bell L, that's for sure. Alright, now we have Zapdos. And I could have shown Jolteon, but Jolteon just gets... It was even harder, because RUNERIGUS is immune to Double Kick as well. So this is like the Palisand situation, but kind of worse. Or, actually, I don't know if it's worse. I don't think it really matters. But here's Zapdos, which can't even 4-hit KO RUNERIGUS with Drill Peck. So RUNERIGUS can easily tank off these hits and then kill a Nightshade. So Zapdos is not doing anything. Now, since the Ice types, like I said, there's no point in really showing them because of just how much Jinx and Cloyster already got the point across. This last replay will be of Hypno. And I will apologize, I'm not super familiar on the best Hypno sets. However, I feel like I don't think it changes much. Unlike Alakazam, Hypno is a lot tankier. So this Psychic alone, I feel like is good enough to beat RUNERIGUS. And while Hypnosis won't always work, I feel like Hypno's usually used as a lead. So if this fight ever does happen, Hypno probably does have a chance to go for Hypnosis. Not unwinnable, but I feel like Hypno has it most of the time. But that's about it. Here is the tier list. Now, this might look pretty bad because of the borderline Pokemon. Well, even if we remove these for a sec, it's... Well, if you remove the borderline Pokemon, it just looks most... Or actually, no, it still looks like he's suffering a lot. Let's put these back. Or I say he's suffering a lot, but the things that he is good against are just really good and are able to take advantage of. So overall, RUNERIGUS, good in Gen 1. I don't think any of us are surprised by that. It's just two of the best types in the game, put them together on defensive Pokemon, and it makes things happen. Unlike Cofagrigus, I'm sorry Cofagrigus, but there's no way you're ever gonna do anything. What do you think? Do you think RUNERIGUS would be good in OU? If so, what tier would he be in? Would he be better than Gengar or Rhydon, or would he be worse? And how do you think he's gonna do in Generation Jumble? And if you are playing a Generation Jumble, please let me know what exactly RUNERIGUS is doing right now, and how good you think he is. Let me know in the comments below. I also want to apologize if I feel kind of off right now. I'm not sure what it is, but I feel like I just haven't been doing a good job with these videos. Like, I'm not sure if just the way I talk, if I've been stuttering more, or if I'm just blanking. But I feel like I don't know, I feel like I'm doing something that's missing. You can let me know if I'm doing a good job or not. But I personally feel like at the bare minimum, I'm just talking way too fast. But that's neither here or there. Thank you all for watching. This is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.